So the last myth before we move on to next steps and how to, get yourself studying abroad. The last myth is this idea that study abroad is somehow easy, right? So, in other words, not academically serious. It's a vacation abroad, or things along those lines. So once again, this is not true, and I feel that this comes about from basically an idea that revolves around differences in instructions. What folks are sometimes talking about are again these differences in instruction at Holy Cross versus instruction abroad. And so, two pictures here to quickly illustrate. Here's a picture of what Holy Cross traditionally looks like in terms of instruction, right? And for our university programs, this is pretty typical of what you can encounter in terms of what a lecture might look like abroad, right? And so, very important to talk about these distinctions, right? So at Holy Cross, you've got these small discussion-based classes. They're very much professor-directed, right? So you're getting, in terms of your out-of-class work, it's very structured. It's read, page 25 to 50 and come prepared with these discussion questions. There are assessments that are distributed throughout the semester. Small, you're getting regular feedback. The idea here is that you're being given tons and tons and tons of tasks all the time, right? Lots of homework. At our host institutions abroad, particularly university programs, it's different in that you have large lecture-based classes where you're getting a majority of your content. Those are usually paired with a discussion section or a tutorial that's a part of it. But again, the primary content you're getting is from these lectures. And the idea here is that it's more student-directed. The expectations from the local student, or of the local students, is that they're doing a lot more independent outside work. So where they're being told, here's the reading list for this course, come prepared. You'll also have, fewer assessments typically, right? So you maybe have a midterm and a final, or a midterm paper and a final paper. And so you have fewer opportunities for feedback. And so this leads to a situation where folks tend to confuse stress and rigor, right? The idea is that at Holy Cross, they give you all kinds of homework and kind of you're feeling, stressed all the time about having all these homework assignments to submit. You go abroad and you're not expected to submit these homework assignments. And so you think that, well, I'm not stressed, so this isn't rigorous, right? This is easy, right? And so the thing that I wanted to emphasize here, and I want to give the ambassadors a chance to talk about, is this idea that fewer graded assignments doesn't mean less work. The expectation is that you are structuring your own work for yourself. You apply your Holy Cross ethic and create your own structure. And so, yeah, I'd like to give you guys a chance to speak about your experiences as far as managing the differences in instruction between Holy Cross and abroad.
So Oxford, as one might assume, is a very academically rigorous program. And the picture that was shown is very different from what I experienced, because Oxford is not one that has large lectures for most classes. They work on a tutorial system, which means replace that picture with myself in a room with one professor, and that professor's only job for that day is to ask me questions about the paper that I wrote and my work. So that's a different kind of rigor, I think. And it was definitely a shift from, say, the Holy Cross. You get your syllabus and there's assignments every 2 to 3 weeks. You have class every 2 to 3 days. And there's a lot more structure. In my abroad situation, it was far more independent in planning my day, planning when I would have time to do each section of the one essay that I would write per week, and really focusing on making sure that my one meeting with my professor per week went well, and doing it all without any help from them in the meantime. So it was from 1 week to 1 week, I would meet them, and then I would do all of the work for the next meeting on my own.
Thanks.
Similar to Caroline, the classes that I had were also pretty similar to the ones I had at Holy Cross, in that they weren't super large, except for like a more intro level course that I took. That was a requirement for all Peruvian students. But most of my classes had some sort of participation that was asked of you, but definitely less than at Holy Cross. But I would also say that it was a system in which they gave you a bunch of readings to read, and you're expected to read them each week, but you weren't necessarily graded on if you completed the readings until you took that 1 or 2 big assessments, like midterm, final, maybe a paper thrown in. So it was definitely a matter of keeping up with the work, because otherwise at the end you would be stuck with 20 academic articles in Spanish that you have to try to read about topics that you don't know much about. So I think it's definitely a matter of keeping up with it and doing the little bits at a time so that at the end you're not stuck with a ton of work and feeling super stressed when you could have been a little bit less stressed throughout the whole semester.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So the key thing that I want to emphasize here is that I want you all to remember that experiencing different approaches, cultural approaches, instructional approaches, and ultimately mastering them is precisely the point of studying abroad. It's that difference that you're going there for. If it looked exactly like Holy Cross, you wouldn't be studying abroad. You would be missing the point entirely.